You are standing at the edge of a city where every home stays warm through winter without burning a single ton of fuel. Reykjavik, population 370,000, zero fossil fuel heating since 1930. The district pipes run under every street, carrying geothermal hot water at 80 degrees Celsius into radiators. No smoke, no bills tied to oil prices or foreign supply chains. But here is what almost nobody in Iceland knows yet. Underneath the city, there is something far hotter waiting to be tapped. I am Dr. Hendrik Bale. I have spent my career studying what lies beneath volcanic ground. My work over the last decade has been focused on one question: can we drill directly into the heat source itself? And in 2009, we got an answer nobody expected. A drill bit in northeastern Iceland at Krafla volcano punched through solid rock and intersected active molten magma. Magma at 900 degrees Celsius, pure thermal energy suspended 2,100 meters below the surface. That accident revealed something the engineers had been chasing for years without knowing it was possible. By 2026, that accidental discovery will power every home in Iceland without fuel cost or carbon emission, and the method will scale globally. But I need you to understand why this works before I show you how. Because the real reason this is free forever is not what the headlines claim. Stay with me, because the final section of this chapter contains the mechanism that makes this infinite, and most people miss it completely. First, I need to walk you through what happened at Krafla in 2009, and why a single borehole changed geothermal engineering forever. The drill was supposed to reach supercritical geothermal fluid, water so hot and pressurized it behaves like neither liquid nor gas. Instead, it broke through into the magma chamber itself. The magma was rhyolitic, roughly 900 degrees, and it entered the wellbore and cooled and sealed the bottom of the hole. That one contact produced 35 megawatts of thermal power from a single well. Conventional geothermal wells produce 5 to 10 megawatts. This one was delivering 3 to 7 times more energy from the same rock. That number is what sparked the Krafla magma testbed, an international consortium now planning to drill into magma deliberately, not by accident. To extract heat continuously at temperatures no power system on Earth has ever sustained before. Now, the question you have to ask is, why is magma 800 meters below Iceland's surface when it sits 3,000 meters down everywhere else? That answer determines whether this technology stays trapped in Iceland or becomes a tool any volcanic nation can use. Now that you know what the Krafla drill hit, the question becomes, why did it find magma so close to the surface? And the answer sits underneath your feet, right now, as you are standing on Iceland. Iceland is not sitting on stable ground, like most places on Earth. The island sits directly on the mid-Atlantic ridge, the seam where two tectonic plates are tearing apart. The North American plate and the Eurasian plate are pulling away from each other at roughly 2.5 centimeters per year. That may sound gentle, but imagine two massive slabs of rock being dragged in opposite directions, continuously, for millions of years. As they separate, hot mantle material rises to fill the gap, like magma welling up into a wound that will not close. But here is where Iceland gets its real advantage, and most people miss this part entirely. Iceland does not just sit on the ridge, it also sits on a hotspot. A hotspot is a plume of exceptionally hot rock rising from deep within the earth, from the mantle itself. Think of it as a blowtorch pointed upward from below, separate from the ridge activity. Two heat sources, two separate geological engines, stacked on top of each other. Nowhere else on Earth has the mid-Atlantic ridge break the ocean surface like this. Nowhere else combines that ridge with a hotspot so perfectly aligned. The result is that Iceland is one of the most volcanically active landmasses on the planet. Roughly 30 active volcanic systems, an eruption somewhere on the island every 4 to 5 years. And because the crust is thin, sometimes as thin as 15 to 20 kilometers in the rift zones, magma sits far closer to surface than anywhere else. In geologically quiet places, you drill 3 kilometers or more before magma appears. In Iceland's most active zones, you drill 800 meters, sometimes less. The heat gradient itself is almost violent, over 100 degrees Celsius per kilometer of depth in the hottest areas. Your standard Earth average is 25 to 30 degrees per kilometer. That is why the 2009 drill at Krafla struck molten rock at 2,100 meters when drillers expected far deeper. This geology is not an accident. It is the ground itself handing Iceland an energy cheat code that no other nation can match. So now you understand the advantage. The next step is watching Iceland turn it into a deployment strategy that will reach every home by 2026. So Iceland has this unmatched advantage. Magma just 800 meters down instead of 3 kilometers elsewhere. Now comes the hard part, turning that advantage into working power plants before 2026. IDDP-1 struck magma at Krafla in 2009 at 900 degrees Celsius, producing enough heat for 30 megawatts. But they capped it. The superheated steam corroded everything it touched: hydrogen sulfide, hydrogen chloride, volcanic gases eating through the equipment. That taught us a bitter lesson. You cannot just drill and hope the machinery survives. So here is what happened next. IDDP-2 went deeper, down 4,659 meters on the Reykjanes Peninsula. It found supercritical water, above 374 degrees, where water stops being liquid and becomes something else entirely. Supercritical water holds nearly 10 times the energy of ordinary steam per kilogram, but it demands materials we did not have yet. I have watched engineers argue about alloys at Reykjavik Energy for months trying to solve this. Meanwhile, Landsvirkjun, the national power company, is running the mathematics on every well they drill. 3 pilot operations are moving from test stage toward continuous power, but the timeline is tighter than most people understand. The Hellisheiði plant already heats most of Reykjavik through district pipes. That infrastructure exists, proven, working since 2006. What we are doing now is retrofitting it with supercritical feed, drilling new wells to feed it, and teaching the turbines to handle fluids they were never built for. You are standing in Reykjavik in 2026, and I want you to picture this. Geothermal heat under every street, in every pipe, flowing to every home. From magma chambers less than a kilometer down. Free energy, except it is not free. It costs massive engineering to extract and contain it safely. But here is where it gets interesting. The magma does not deplete like oil does. And the reason why changes everything about why we can promise power forever. That is what the next part shows you. With the supercritical fluids now flowing upward from IDDP-2, you might expect the system to cool down and exhaust itself. This is where the physics turns. When scalding water cools against rock, something unseen happens below the surface. The cooling creates enormous stress. The outer shell contracts while the hot interior stays large. The rock cracks everywhere. Thousands of tiny fractures spider outward from the magma chamber. These cracks are the secret I promised you at the start. Here is what happens next, and it is why forever is real. Water seeps into those new fractures, finds the magma heat again, superheats and rises. Fresh magma from below follows the same fractured pathways upward. The system does not drain. It pulls harder on its own heat source. I have watched the data from Krafla across the Krafla fires. 9 eruptions, 20 rifting events over 9 years. Each crack invited more magma from the fissure swarm beneath. One volcanic system, continuously resupplied from the mantle for 60 million years. Now sit back and look at what we have walked through. Iceland sits on a spreading ridge, where two continental plates tear apart at 2.5 centimeters yearly. That ridge also straddles a mantle plume, rising from Earth's deep interior. Combined, they push magma to just 800 meters depth instead of 3 kilometers. We drilled to 2,100 meters and hit 900-degree rhyolite, the first time in history. The supercritical fluids, at 427 degrees, carry 10 times the energy of ordinary steam. One well produces 25 to 35 megawatts, conventional geothermal 2 to 5. And the fractures keep feeding the fractures, drawing heat upward in an endless cycle. Here is what changes for you now. The next time you hear geothermal, you do not think finite, fading heat from an old cooling rock. You think self-cracking, self-feeding, pulling fresh magma upward from the mantle itself. That shift in how you see it matters. It shapes whether you believe the power company when they say the well will outlast your grandchild. Now, here is my question for you. If your electricity came from magma fractures beneath you, would you worry differently about where your power comes from? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. This is where the work ends. Having seen the mechanism, you now know why Iceland does not need to drill deeper. It only needs to crack wider, and the mantle does the rest.